Hi, everybody. Sounds like you can hear me, which is great. I am Richard Muirhead. I'm a managing partner at Fabric Ventures. We have been backing projects in this space since 2012. So I've been around and actually working also in AI. The company I built before that was using machine learning primitives. So I have always been very excited about the intersection of the two areas and actually still see AI as not just an application, but a whole suite of application that needs the Web3 network to operate, in a safe and aligned way, both like tactically when you use an application, like you're giving your medical data up and you want to be advised as to how to improve your sleep or nutrition, and you actually know it's going to advise you positively, but also to avoid some kind of like dystopian future. So my first comment is that, aside from that intro, is that I've been on 3 different stages here at Token 2049 talking broadly about this topic. And although I love this audience and I love this location, and it's actually a pretty big audience, this is the smallest stage I've been on. And I don't think anybody on this stage is disheartened by that. I actually think we should look at some of the positives, is that it is clear that stable coins, as the kind of Web3 crypto rails for payments and ultimately, for decentralized finance, is having its time in the sunshine, and that's fantastic. And there is an intersection with AI and agentic commerce. And it is also true that it's quite hard for some people to get their heads around, including arguably Vitalik till about a year and a half ago, what the intersection between AI and crypto is and why it's absolutely necessary. And so let's start with that, and go through a little introduction, a little one-on-one on what you're doing, and then we'll come back to some deeper questions. Niraj, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah.
And thanks for moderating.
No.
So, my name is Niraj. I'm one of the co-founders at a company called Ritual. Ritual is building a blockchain that is designed for this kind of new wave of intelligence that we see with modern AI models. So what Ethereum was for smart contract coordination with decentralized money, Ritual is doing for decentralized intelligence.
Yep. GM everyone, Jansen here, co-founder of Virtuous Protocol. We were the guys behind the first autonomous agent that spent with a crypto wallet last year. We were the guys who were behind the first autonomous transaction between autonomous agents. And what we are effectively building is going to be the first economically vibrant network state of AI agents. Today, we have 2 products. The first is a tokenization platform that allows AI agent founders and builders to tokenize and to have capital formation around them. And the second, more exciting product is what we term the agent commerce protocol, which is effectively a protocol that enables autonomous agents to coordinate at scale with very zero information loss using the blockchain. So that is what we do, pretty much do everything agents related in crypto.
Thank you. Clear.
Hi, I'm David Choi. I'm the co-founder of USD.AI, and we're trying to build dollar that scales artificial intelligence. And to do that, we do it in 2 main offerings. One is inventing the GPU mortgage, and secondly is to invent the interest rate at artificial intelligence by being the lowest cost of capital for the CapEx build out for AI.
Super. So I think thinking about it actually on my feet, it's quite interesting. We have sort of represented here. I'm going to boil it down simplistically. The guys might actually tell me I'm wrong. We have 3 key elements of the intersection represented here. One is, I would say that the whole area of how AI models are trained and how they're prompted and how we actually work out whether they're giving us what we want is an area of kind of furious innovation with enormous amounts of money being put into it. And so how to actually do that in a decentralized way, essentially, organize the world's data from the bottom up so that we can make AI better is key. So that's represented here. Then, on the agentic side, thinking about what we need to have in place so we're comfortable giving over autonomy to AI agents is another critical area, and that's also where Web3 comes in. And we're going to start with David on a question, and we're back again. It is well understood that in these large rounds that are being raised for AI right now, that they're getting bigger and bigger, and there's a huge quantity of resources required to make AI successful. And that spans, all the way from the researchers being paid 100 million by Zuck, through to the data centers that are being built out, the GPUs that are being purchased, the nuclear power stations that people are rolling out. So huge amounts of money. You had an interesting thought or an interesting question for the audience. How much money is going to be required to build the AI future that we want?
Estimates have ranged around $3 trillion to $8 trillion. Morgan Stanley did like 6.7 as a good middle range, which I don't think people realize how much money that is. To give an example, the most expensive stadium that was ever built in the US was the Las Vegas Sphere, which costed about $3 billion. And Elon Musk's data center is $8 billion. So you're building 2.5 of these, and not just 2.5 of these, you're building 1,000 of these concurrently. So it's 3,000 Las Vegas Spheres being built all over the world, because this is the most important problem in the world, which is who's going to win the AI race. It's very much like a Cold War situation, because a country with AI and a country without it, it's the same difference with a person with a car and without a car. The productivity level is almost 10x difference. So it's very similar to the 1970s of who's going to own oil, and compute's going to be 2 times the size of it.
So that's a lot of U2 concerts if we have 3,000 spheres, I would say. And I haven't been to one, but they look quite fun. But with what you're building, and maybe you can put some numbers on it, what are you trying to unpack again, how you're trying to tackle this problem? I think you've launched just 4 weeks ago. How successful has that been? How much money are you raising? And perhaps why is it important not just to have, for example, a bunch of banks fund one company to build it, or one country, but maybe for this to be a little bit democratized, to use that overused term?
So we launched about 4 weeks ago. We raised about $500 million in about 1 hour, and we were very humbled by the traction of it. We tried to tackle the problem by creating a new financial instrument, and we're really inspired by what you've seen with assets that have expanded and become trillion-dollar markets. The best example would be Fannie Mae and American Housing. Before the 1920s, a bank would just give you a 50% loan and they would call back because they needed the money. It's only with the invention of the mortgage-backed security that you've created this $42 trillion asset class called U.S. housing. And it's this invention of a new financial instrument that lets you price risk, that lets you create these trillion-dollar markets. And right now, Sam Altman has said 5 times in the last month he doesn't have enough money to build AI. Elon Musk is going to Abu Dhabi for money, right? There's not enough money in the world to build this. It's why we're trying to win this race and find that money. And none of the financial instruments in TradFi actually solve this problem. And that's why we built USD.AI.
I actually have a question. So your thesis is that the capital formation on the crypto market side can outpace the traditional finance?
Yeah, fundamentally. And to explain why, the time it takes to issue a ABS-like product, asset-backed security, can take a year. You gotta originate 10,000 loans, package it up, tranche it, underwrite it, and then you go on a roadshow to sell it. That takes a year long. It might make sense for a 30-year mortgage. It doesn't make sense that the GPU's half-life is a year and a half, so 3 years long. By the time you do the ABS product, you're already in the next series. So you can't. TradFi does not fundamentally work with 1-year life cycles.
And maybe we don't want it to, as they said, in this context. We want spread the ownership, spread the returns, spread the control. It's possibly a good thing.
Yeah, and our theory is we can lower the cost of capital by turning this process into a single multi-call. Just like you can issue debt instantaneously in a single button. And you don't have to go through that roadshow.
So look, that seems like great success. Seems like a great thesis. We hope it's successful. But really, it's predicated, build out of the supply of data centers GPUs, predicated on some kind of demand. And if we go back, here to your area with virtuals and agents, and maybe to expand a little bit, I think even in the kind of general context of AI, we've seen that coding is working pretty well and getting, increasing adoption. There's Lovable in Europe, which is one of our kind of, flagship endeavors. And then even, for example, Fixer in Europe, they go into your inbox and try to automate that. You give over some autonomy. There's some traction there, but in a sense, it's kind of more limited than we might expect. Like at the moment, I haven't got an agent that I trust to tweet for me. I haven't got an agent that I really trust to do my travel plan for me. I haven't got to trade. So what is stopping, us moving forward? And is there a role for Web3, or describe what that role is for Web3?
Yeah, so I mean, there's two parts to that question, right? I think the first part, it's like, what are the use cases of agents today that, beyond coding, that is actually relevant to end users? I mean, just to work within the crypto sphere alone, right? Not even looking outside. I mean, within our ecosystem, we see the largest chunk of adopted use cases are around information, and how does that help you as a degen make better trades. So what we see, the current behavior of, there's a new set of DeFi or crypto audience that pretty much is augmenting themselves with an agent that can help them do due diligence and to perform execution. Give an example of use cases that we see today that's happening, right? It's like, okay, last week, you saw an Esther token on crypto Twitter. Everyone's like talking about Esther. And then, you don't really have an alpha group, and then you're just like, what is it all about, right? So what we have seen people do is that people were tagging, or they were working with these AI agents, asking them, saying like, oh, what is Esther? How many smart money wallets are actually aping Esther? Like, or even tell me more, right, about this project. A lot of times, you as a user, you do not know. And then this agent goes out there, works with other agents, or even by themselves, figure out what information that you would need to help you inform your trade. The second use case is then, how do they simplify complex trade mechanisms into something that even your grandmother can use? Think of it like options trading today. If you are a person that, let's say I'm a grandmother, right, or I'm a casual user, and I heard from my friend that says that, oh, you can actually make money if Ethereum swings volatility, like volatile. You can make money up and down, right? But you as a person who has no idea what options are, how do you access that product? Now, agents in this form becomes that convenience tooling. You don't need to know about options. You can just ask the agent, hey, I want to bet on Ethereum being volatile by end of next week. It's just this one singular statement, right? You give it to an agent, and this options specialized agent will go out there, build up your construct for you, find liquidity across your Bybits, your Deribits, and your other option platforms, and give you that final product. So today, that is the use case that people are seeing.
So that's the use case, and it's operating by definition in the Web3 environment, because it's going out there and using, Web3 centralized and decentralized platforms to trade. But is there,
on a fundamental level,
sorry?
Is a question more like the fundamental level?
Yeah, well, is there something about AI agents running in the context of Web3 that makes them better, safer?
Okay. Very good question. Very, very good question. So our belief is that what we're seeing today, it's every agents are specializing. Some are specializing in, I mentioned options trading, some are specializing in information, some are specializing on trade execution, some are specializing on entertainment, meme creation, whatever that might be, right? Like humans. And like humans, we create companies where we aggregate together different specialized humans to create more sophisticated products and more sophisticated services. So the economic the net economic value created will be greater than the sum of its parts. So that's where we realize crypto comes in exceedingly elegantly. So early this year, in February, when we were working with a bunch of agents, we were trying to figure out how can these agents work together, right? Or these special agents, how can they work together? We had a major pain point that we ourselves faced, which was very simple. Agent A was an entertainer, autonomous entertainer agent who was trying to create its own audience. And he was engaging with another agent that was generating memes, music videos for him because this agent doesn't have that capability. Now, what happened was when the agents tried to work with each other, there was this syndrome, we term it the empty envelope syndrome, where your agent was supposed, I paid $6 to your agent to do something, but your agent thought he has completed it and thought he has sent that picture or the video over, and in the end, it was nothing. That was pure hallucination. So we got, and that is what we term information loss, right? When the agents try to communicate, they cannot communicate perfectly today. And then we realized that, dude, if that's happening at 30% information loss, you can never scale agent-to-agent coordination. It would just break down, right? You compound a 30% loss across every agent, it would just break down. So what happened then is that we realized, we got this thinking, it's like, how do we solve this problem? Just literally, how do we perfect that information? And then we realized like, hey, actually the blockchain is a very elegant solution because it solves that and it solves a bit more. 3 key things it solves. First, it solves information loss by being that single source of truth. If our agents agreed to do something together, I can effectively mint that memo on chain. Now, whenever we go, let's say we said agree to pay $6 for that image, we can agree to put that memo on chain. Now, if you were to, then when I pay you the $6, the state on chain can flip to say that, okay, transaction of payment has been done. So now we both know that if we were ever to question ourselves, like, has payment been done? You can look on chain and you realize, okay, the ledger tells you that payment has been done. If you have already shipped the content over to me, the product has been shipped, content has been done. So the state flips on chain becomes a reference point for truth. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is then trustless coordination. The second thing that we then realize is that, how do I know that your agent is delivering your product at spec? I wanted a meme image of a CZ showing number 4 on the Esther token. But what if your agent produces child pornography, right? And he sends it back to my agent. How do you fix that, right? So then what we've realized is that the smart contracts allow for escrow and programmability of money. Because you can program money, now it's part of the $6 that I'm paying you, I can siphon 10% away to pay a third-party agent who can evaluate the transaction and say that, yep, that is actually a video of CZ dancing. Release the payment through smart contracts. So that solves the trustless coordination portion between agents. And the third part is reputation. So now, when I've done this 100 times with you, your agent now has these entire memos and transactions on chain that becomes your Yelp review and your reputation behind your agent. Now, suddenly, when a new agent comes into play and he wants to find like which agents can I work with, your agent already has this history of performance that I can use to evaluate, should I choose you or should I choose you? The cost of building up supply chains pretty much goes down to 0. So that 3 reasons, it's like why we think blockchain is that very elegant solution that a Web2 company cannot operate. Now the reality is this, right? I'm going to add very quickly. When we tried this in February, 2 months later, Google announced the agent-to-agent protocol by themselves. Few days ago, Stripe and OpenAI announced the same word, agent commerce protocol as well. Now, I think people are believing that they will need to head down this world of agents coordinating with agents. But I think what these guys would, when we work with them behind the scenes, because there's a lot of research and collaboration happening, you've realized that a lot of them hasn't go live, hasn't gotten their hands dirty. So they will realize that they will face the same problems of information loss. And they will then come to chain and they will say like,
they're going to
partner with someone like chain to solve this.
They're going to come flocking to Web3.
Exactly.
By the way, brilliant exposition of the problem and some of the solutions. Truth needs to be ascertained, trustless coordination, and then reputation for agents. And I think interestingly, it's not going to just be reputation for agents. Of course, it's reputation for people.
Exactly.
That you can is attested on chain. And I think that's a great one. So in that context, we talked deeply about GPUs and funding those. We talked about some of the demand coming now for AI native applications with agents baked in. It's going to come. It could well be on chain. Maybe unpack a little bit more for the audience, because they may not know Ritual so well. Again, what you're doing and how necessary that is for excellent intelligence right out there, for each application.
So as we started talking to projects in the space, potential applications, what we saw was there was a number of missing tools from the developer ecosystem that existing blockchains were not providing these developers. For a lot of the use cases he's talking about, most modern blockchains can't really do this type of execution today. So for example, every blockchain today cannot natively call an outside resource, a Web2 resource, and then integrate that response into what it does. So Ritual provides this amongst several other tools, including asynchronous transactions, scheduled transactions natively inside of the chain that have priority at the top of every single block. And the purpose of what we've built is this, blockchain that's designed for the agentic web. For the web that we see coming in 2025 and beyond, we think it's fundamentally changed. And the use cases that require this infrastructure, require new infrastructure. So that's what we're building. In addition to, being able to, expose, say, AI inference and fine tuning to a developer, we also allow kind of a plethora of different verification and privacy offerings that you can build alongside different use cases you may want to build. Many of which are, sort of bent towards the agentic use case.
I have a follow-up question. Sorry.
Yeah, I love the
Actually, as well. What's Ritual's thoughts on which part on chain makes sense? Which part of AI actually doesn't have to be on chain? I'm curious what you guys
say that one more time. I missed
like
it.
which part that you guys think that of AI being on chain makes sense? Is it a whole value chain, or is it only a portion of it, right?
I think there's probably two ways to answer that question. One would be, is the compute actually happening literally on chain? And the answer is no. We have a kind of a scheme or setup where all of the compute's happening off chain and it's just proven on chain. So there's no re-execution like you see in Ethereum or really any other blockchain today. Maybe, but another way to cut your question is, what's the benefit of, say, merging, having AI actually on chain, and what does that do? To me, the benefit of something like that is, sure, there are benefits to guarding AI and creating verifiability and privacy for models today, but I am particularly excited about, what are the consumer use cases, the new consumer use cases, the net new consumer use cases that having an AI substrate on chain enables. I think agents is a great one. I think building in the compute and sort of, I guess you call it the derivatization of the compute of AI, I think is very important to build. And then as we start to see some early use cases get built out, I think agents is certainly the best one. I think DeFi, stablecoins, it's all ready, it's all happening, and the models are there to go do it. And then I'm also excited to see, as this crypto AI, niche of the space starts to grow, what are the other use cases that are exciting to be built? Particularly consumer is one that I'm excited about. It's an area that crypto has struggled with historically. I don't think there are really any non-financial consumer applications that are at scale yet in crypto. And I think AI can help bring that into the crypto world in some capacity.
So one way thanks for that, guys. I think about it is that if we're gonna really embrace AI in a very intimate way, personally and for our businesses, we need to have some level of privacy baked into what happens there. I think that may not be strictly speaking kind of exclusively a Web3 or a digital asset, a capability, but it's one that, through different forms of encryption, ZK and homomorphic and trusted execution environments, it's one that is harnessed readily within this ecosystem. I think that is key. I think, interestingly, on this point of verifiability and truth, what the kind of problem statement you outlined there, Jansen, made me think about how we end up, once we scale applications in the human world, with lots of lawyers. We end up with lots of lawyers to resolve all of these questions of, information loss and breach of contract and dispute resolution, whatever. We may be able to have some automated third-party arbitrations through agents, but, we're not going to be able to scale this world of autonomous agents if it requires lawyers to be intervening all the time. And so that the verifiability of the truth and the performance of a contract and all of these things, that has to happen on chain autonomously for this to have any chance of scaling. So I think, and then the trustless coordination is kind of like, in a sense, the byproduct of that at the agent level. I think there's a trustless coordination thing at the data level. How do we get people to contribute their data through some incentives? Charlie Munger, I don't think he was a big fan of digital assets and Bitcoin, but said something about, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome or something, whatever. We can provide incentives to the data. Data is what we absolutely need in order to build better AI models. So I believe that's important. And then we've spoken about getting the capital coordinated as well. So, okay, I think we've covered a few different interesting topics about, your projects, where you've got to today. We've got like a couple of minutes left. So just to wrap up maybe, again, where maybe you want to restate where you've got to, because numbers are always great. So the audience can get a good idea of the state of play. Where are you going, and what's the key area you're focusing on to unpack? And like in the spirit of Web3, how can people in the audience here or at home participate in that? Let's get people involved. So do you want to start? Oh, and actually, Niraj, do you want to start your case? We'll pass it back there. Yeah, good.
Yeah, sure. I think the big trend this next decade, as we start to see these AI models continue to improve and get to, AGI or AGI-like intelligence, is we're going to see trillions of dollars managed by agents. We're additionally going to see, every component of life in the world have some degree of AI attached to it. And so what we're interested in at Ritual is new behaviors, new things that will, consumers will be doing in 5 or 10 years from now, or hopefully earlier. And so we're very excited to see the kind of the early seedlings of this space. It's 1 or 2 years old. AI itself, this LLM wave is only 2-3 years old. Yeah, crypto is maybe a year younger than that. So I'm just very excited for these next 5 or 6 years, and that's why we're building what we're building at Ritual.
Every year at Token, we will come up with a new term that we believe will be our compass and will become the direction of also the industry. So last year, literally, we came up with the term Agent-Fi because we believe that agents can be productive assets and that you can tokenize them and allow people to participate in the economic upside. Now, we've realized that our vision has grown this year. And now we are focusing a lot more on, can we create that Stripe or the Swift for the agentic economy? And the new term that we are using as our compass today is something called small a capital GDP, agentic GDP. And that is a North Star of us. How do we get as many agents to be productive in value? How do we enable them to trade and to have commerce between each other to produce more economic value? And that is the goal. And our target is to have agents paying agents $100 million by end of this year. And what we are doing, we realize that for this to happen, we can't just let the agents do it by themselves. We need more use cases that people like you and I will use on a daily basis that will help push this adoption. So my call to action for you guys is very simple. we've actually made something simple enough for you as an audience to actually understand and use, to understand why is there value behind agents coordinating at scale. If you guys open your Twitter today and you tag at Butler_agent, Butler, BUTLER_agent, it is pretty much an agent that can help you access this network of other agents. Today, you can even do it. If you see someone talk about a token, you can just tag this Butler and say, hey, run me a due diligence on this token. This Butler will go and find other agents who can help you do this diligence for you. You can say, hey, I want to open a 3x leverage long on this token. Tag the same Butler in the same Twitter trade. He will find another agent to execute that trade for you. After being a back holder, you might say, hey, I want to create a meme music video to shield this token. You tag the same Butler, he will find a music video agent to generate that for you. And then maybe you might say that, someone is flooding my bags. You type on Twitter, fuck you, I add maybe Ansem, right? And say that, hey, put money where your mouth is. Here's $10,000, open the prediction market for me. You tag Butler agent. The Butler agent will go and find a prediction market agent to build up that liquidity for you. So we've done, that is live today. There'll be more and more services coming out. So, and we are doing one more thing on top of that.
I think we may need to move to David soon, just because we're out of time. But but I'm glad we brought prediction markets into as well, because we're covering all the bases. So actually, one of our portfolio companies, Near, is looking to use USD.AI to bootstrap a network for its DCML technology. So, David.
Yeah, I guess my opinion might be a little contrary to what you guys are saying. I don't think we should build in hypotheticals of what should be, what could be, what will be, but build in the now. Like, famous quote from Jeff Bezos, internet, schminternet, AI, like, really, it's cool that we have sovereign agents, but like, who's the user? Talk to the user, give me a use case now. We have 15 loans signed. We have another 20 that's in negotiation. These are customers that want to use the product. They're going to provide the yield. They have a specific use case and has cash flows. OpenAI worked because they're the first time they had an interface that users could use. People were building GPT-3, like, that's cool. But how does a user interact with it? Where does the cash flows come from? How do you pay the debt? How do you actually make money move where people actually want to use it? So for me, just whenever you look at something within this space, just ask, who is the user? What are they doing? Do they really need to use it? And are they willing to spend the money? Because there is money to be made, but there has to be a use case. So for us, we have a very specific use case, which is a lot of people need GPUs and they can't get a loan. That's why we built our product. It's very hard to raise money to do this because they structure incorrectly. So yeah, that's my conclusion.
So look, it's great. We've had representation from this entire stack that we need to deliver on AI, huge amount of resources to be delivered and coordinated to make it successful. The most essential resource remains you folks, the users. So the time's up, the bell's going, but follow everybody on Twitter, send them DMs, get involved in the community, and you can be part of making this successful as well, because we don't want Web3 just to be about moving money around. We want to have use cases that generate, subscriptions and habits and real, utility, to use that phrase, and that will drive the justification for this big build out, which I have no doubt will be the case. Thank you very much to the panelists. Thank you to the audience, and we'll see you next year on a bigger stage.